Well, welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And our topic, suffering. Very interesting topic in today's world. So the first thing that we probably should talk about is what is suffering. A lot of people, for example, may think, oh, I'm in pain, therefore I'm suffering. Maybe not. I mean, there's a lot of people who say there are some benefits of pain. Maybe it's rewarding. Some mothers from childbirth have talked about this. And if you remember all those Nike commercials, all those people looking absolutely miserable, and apparently, they keep doing this, so there must be some payoff. So it may not be that simple as, for example, just pain. Researchers who have studied suffering tell us that what suffering is really about is it's a threat to who we are as a person. Okay, or one researcher put it, it's a threat to our intactness. There's something that's going to fall apart in our lives. So, for example, if I'm in a big depression, right? Really, that means, I can't really be me because of this depression. And that's a threat to who I am, how I look at myself. And so that would be suffering. So first off, this is the nature of suffering. Now, this interesting thing's happening today is that there's an idea floating around that suffering is bad. And if you watch television, you see this on the commercials. We have pills for everything. If you're suffering because of depression, well, here's a pill you can take. If you're suffering because you got a toothache, here's a pill you can take. The implication is that suffering is unnecessary and it's bad. And to live the good life, you can't suffer. Sort of an odd kind of idea if you think about it, because on the other hand, there's lots of examples of people who have suffered and said they were thankful for their suffering. One person is Dr. Wong, whose research underlies a great deal of our program at Sunshine Coast. He often tells people that he is thankful that he has suffered so much in his life because it was through the suffering that he began to understand human nature, and it gave him motivation to do all his work. Other people, like the actor Christopher Reeve, after he broke his neck, he actually said that it was through breaking his neck that he came to understand how beautiful life could be and what was important to life. And there are many other examples of this kind of idea, that somehow through suffering we can find out about ourselves and live fuller lives. Anyway, in this online series, we'll talk about that. So the first thing to point out is that suffering is natural and necessary to life. Many great thinkers throughout history have talked about this. The great thinker Friedrich Nietzsche said this very clearly. In fact, Frankl even quoted Nietzsche on this point, is that if you're going to live, you're going to suffer. That's the way it works. All human beings suffer. There's nothing bad about it. It's just a part of what it means to be human. So suffering is natural. The only thing Nietzsche said is unnecessary suffering. That was the bad part. But he said, certain people will actually go out and seek out suffering as long as they can find a reason for it. And you can think about this in your own life. Or reading in the newspapers, look at combat soldiers who volunteer, right? I mean, that's not the most pleasant experience, right? So they're volunteering because there's a reason for it. There are people who help out the infirm, right? They do this for a reason. People who go overseas to a third world nation to help out the kids, right? There's always a reason for it, right? And so people will actually seek out suffering as long as they find a reason for it. So suffering may not be that bad. And there's one other issue about suffering that we now know. It's actually how we grow as human beings. It's through suffering that, for example, we develop resilience, as they call it, or perseverance. It's through suffering that we learn to solve problems. It's through suffering that we basically grow as human beings. So This idea, first off, that suffering is natural and it's important for people to suffer because it's basically how we grow as human beings. Anyway, that's it for this week's online program. We'll be back next week with another topic on suffering.